Richard Knott, my old friend from days gone back to RMMGA.
I think so. Quite a long time we've known each other, one way or another, isn't it?
Yeah. 2005, I think, was my first RMMGA gathering.
Yeah, well, definitely middle of that decade. I can't remember the exact years. They're all
they all merge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Acoustic Guitar once again has brought us together for another weekend of music.
Indeed so.
Friendship. Yeah.
It's been good.
It has.
I really enjoyed it.
I loved your playing last night.
Thank you.
I always enjoy your playing, and if anyone listening to this should most definitely buy your CDs because they are superb.
Thank you. We'll say it's called the Fairgood Blues. It was late last night, a hell of a fight my baby's found me at. She gonna make me pay for my cheating ways at the bank of scream and shout. Richard
Knott, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, you're a Sunburst fan.
I love Sunburst Guitars. I can't explain why. It's because I think when the Beatles first emerged, they were playing Sunburst Gibson J160Es when I saw them, and I just thought, that's amazing. I want one, and I assumed that was the colour guitars were. So when I first saw a natural top guitar, I thought it had been painted yellow or something. And there's just something about that Sunburst finish. And the irony is, of course, that I think Sunbursts were first developed to hide imperfections in the wood or to use lesser quality wood. But I don't know. What can I say? It's personal taste.
I know. I actually swung. I at first did not like them at all.
Right.
And I've come round completely 180 pivot. Yeah. So my last purchase. No, it wasn't. My pre-last purchase.
Oh, your Kim Walker.
A custom-made Sunburst.
Yeah, beautiful.
And as Sunburst go, Kim's are up there. It's very nicely done.
It's quite a skilled job, I think.
I was talking with Rosie and Cal.
Yeah.
And they were looking at the Sunbursts that are here this weekend and talking about...
Are they thinking of doing so?
Yeah, they are.
Great. Well, that'll be another maker I'll have to get into then. Yeah.
So what did you bring with you this weekend?
I brought a Martin Triplo 18 Golden Era, which is a guitar they no longer make. It's Adirondack spruce and mahogany, I think it's based on the specs from 1937, or maybe that's the Sunburst pattern, but its full name is Triplo 18 Golden Era 1937.
Right.
So it's meant to be a sort of recreation of a vintage style guitar, and it's the third Martin guitar of that body shape that I own because I love the neck they put on those. It's got a modified V-neck, which is quite a chunky neck. A lot of people don't care for it, but for me it's perfect. But that guitar is, of the three I bought them all used. It's the one that's least played in. And you probably know Adirondack tops supposedly take longer to play in than Sitka spruce tops, and it's not quite come out of itself yet, so I thought I'd bring it and let people play it, and it all helps the process of the guitar opening up then. But it looks great, it feels great under the fingers, it just needs a bit of work to get the sound out. And I brought a couple of nylon string guitars because I was wanting... One of the great things, as you know, about gatherings like this is everyone plays your guitars and they tell you what they think and they'll give you honest opinions. And I have two nylon string guitars, but I only really want to keep one. One's a relatively cheap one, one's a more expensive one. And I bought the expensive one intending to sell the cheap one and then decided I liked it. But I don't want to keep two, so I wanted people to play them and tell me what they thought. And as a result, I have decided which one I'm going to move on. So,
which one?
The cheap one.
Is that the Lag?
The Lag, yeah. The other one's a BSG made in the Czech Republic.
Right.
They're both nylon string guitars made for steel string guitar players. So they have narrower necks and they just have a similar feel to a steel string guitar. But that Lag, although it's an inexpensive guitar, it plays beautifully. It's got a great pickup system in it, and I've recorded with it. So you're reluctant really to say goodbye to it, but you know, you can only have, I shouldn't say this on film, should I? You can only have so many, you know?
Yeah, tell that to Chris.
Well, true. But I find that, I don't know about you, as I get older, there's a lot to be said for simplifying your life. And I've been through so many guitars over the years, and the great thing about buying good quality guitars is you don't really lose money if you're careful. You can buy. I've bought some that, I bought for less than they were worth, and I could sell for what they're now worth. And so even if you factor in inflation, I've not lost money on them. The last car I sold had depreciated in value more than the entire value of my guitar collection. Yeah. So people, I don't know, it's all relative, isn't it? But people say, oh, you spend £2,000 on a guitar. Well, yes, because it means a huge amount to me. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. It performs its function beautifully. And, it gives you so much joy, as you know. Why wouldn't you, if necessary, scrimp and save to buy something that is a companion for your life? That's the way I feel about it. I've been playing guitar since I was 15, but I first wanted a guitar. I was about 7 or 8, and I got one, and just learned to pluck out the theme from Doctor Who on it, But I took it up seriously when I was 15, and it's been with me longer than just about anything in my life. For people who don't play guitar, maybe they don't get this, but a friend of mine in Germany made a CD, and he called it Lifetime Companions, and it was actually about the songs that he was playing, the songs that he'd loved all his life. But I said to him, it could just as easily be about the guitars, because that's what they are. Yeah. They're things that they help you through bad times. They help you express yourself and be creative. What's not to like? I love them. And funnily enough, I've never really fallen in love with electric guitars. I can admire them, and I like the sound of them, but they don't do it for me like an acoustic guitar does.
Chris said the same thing, and I'm actually looking now at getting an electric for the first time.
I thought you had a Gretsch.
No, that fell through.
Ah, right.
And I'm still thinking about getting one when it comes in stock.
Those are the style of guitars that I do like. I've got a Guild semi-acoustic with a Bigsby tremolo, which is nice, but it's a big, heavy guitar. And I recently played an Eastman, which is a Far Eastern brand. They're made in China, but in a very small workshop that makes violins and stuff. And that felt like an acoustic guitar to play. And that's the style of electric I like. I have had Telecasters and stuff, but I can't play like a lead guitar player. I play fingerpicking acoustic or fingerpicking electric if necessary. And when I made the last CD, I did play some electric guitar on that, but I was really playing acoustic style. Yeah. I wasn't playing lead guitar lines. I was playing fills or rhythmic parts or just little accents to emphasize bits of music. That was one of the things I really liked about making that CD, was doing the arrangements, because all of my songs are written on the guitar, and I just normally play them acoustic guitar vocal.
Yeah. Did you arrange them yourself?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, I had some contributing musicians who, generally speaking, arranged their own contribution with a bit of guidance from me, because I knew what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to I can't write it down for them, but I knew the sort of sound I was after, so I could explain to them, or I could try to play it on the guitar or on piano or something, but I wanted them to bring what they wanted to bring to it too. But I did, on a lot of the tracks I did like a second guitar, bass, percussion. I even played harmonica on one track, which is weird because I don't play harmonica. But no, I did the sort of basic arrangements, and they did the twiddly arrangement where they wanted to. That was part of the great fun of it, really. To write a song and then think, how can I present this song in the best way it can possibly come across? What would help it? And the only downside then is, of course, you play live and you can only play them with the guitar then. There's one song I do, and a friend who's in Seattle called Grant Dermody, who's a great harmonica player, played on this track. And when I was recording the basic track, of course, I had to leave space for him to play his solo. And now when I play it live, I have to be careful not to leave that space, because he's not there. And I'm not going to play harmonica on that track for sure. So it gives you some different challenges, but I really loved that arranging side. It was really interesting, because you've got to dress them up a little bit, put them in their sort of best Sunday clothes, but not go over the top. I didn't want the pipes and drums and
Yeah.
string sections and stuff. Most of them it's just one instrument,
Yeah.
either electric guitar, a mandolin, piano, harmonica, stuff like that. And the rest of the stuff I played.
The sun's beating down, the pavement's burning hot. I don't need nothing that I ain't already got. Welcome to my neighborhood, here on Easy Street. My wife is well dressed and my kids are well behaved. My lawn is well trimmed, my patio's well paved. Welcome to my neighborhood, here on Easy Street. All of my neighbors want to be like me. They see a man at the top of the tree, 3 cars at the front and a pool in the back. When it comes to keeping up, I'm the leader of the pack.
Yeah, for me, I played in 2 bands
Yeah.
up until a couple of years ago when they both split up at the same time, and I went solo.
Nothing to do with you, I hope.
No, it was a husband and wife team in the band, in both bands, and they separated. So collateral damage. But then I went back to playing solo again,
Yeah.
and I bought a loop pedal,
Yeah, I've seen some of your videos.
and
That would
that
terrify me.
it's
What if you
yeah
press the wrong button at the wrong time?
that happens. And part of learning how to perform with it is how to fix things on the fly.
Yeah.
You know, it does happen. You get the timing
Sure.
wrong, so you've got
Yeah.
to stop it again. But it's part of the act. But it's allowed me to play things that wouldn't work solo.
But I tell you what, one of the things that strikes me about performing, you're never satisfied, are you, with your own performance?
No.
And I think you have to get over that nerve thing for a start, you know, and get to the point where you can deal with the performance side. You're not just playing a song or singing a song or playing an instrumental. You are performing it,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. From the audience's point of view, you're an entertainer.
Yeah.
And I find that a really weird concept. I didn't start playing the guitar in order to become an entertainer, but it's an inevitable thing you have to do when you perform, I think. And so you have a picture in your mind of what the ideal performance looks like. And in it, you know, you are personable, you're not nervous, you don't fluff anything, your guitar's in tune, you remember all your lyrics. It's 100% there. And so you do a performance and maybe it's 90% there. And you just can't think of anything but the 10% that wasn't right.
Yeah.
But the audience hear the 90% and then they fill the gaps in,
Yeah.
I think. They hear 100% because they're on your side. And you've really got to get your head around the fact that if the audience say they enjoy it, then it was good.
Yeah.
It's not for me to say. If someone says that was really good, I can't say to them, yeah, but I made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
They don't care. They mean it. You've got to trust the audience to mean what they say. And it took me a long time to get my head around that. And even now, like you said, talk about me playing last night, I think I did 5 songs, and I was thinking about it this morning. 3 of them were fine, more or less spot on. One, I made one mistake. The other one, I blew it right at the start. But of course here it's a sympathetic audience, so nobody really cares, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those things, again, you just have to figure out what your audience is, what they like, what they want, why are they there. Well, here you're surrounded by guitar players who just love hearing other guitar players, so that's easy. If you're playing in a noisy pub and you're playing original songs that they've never heard before, you've got to be prepared to become background music, because most people are talking, you know. I do a gig near where I live. They've just changed the setup. It's a tiny pub, a micro pub, and it used to be a shop actually. So it's one of these little places that it's not a traditional pub. And the main room is at ground level, and there's another room downstairs where they have an open fire and so on. And when I've played it before, I've played upstairs, and people who don't want to hear music, I guess, go downstairs. Now they've switched it around and they've got a really good PA system, and you play downstairs, but the music is heard all through the place. So people who want to come and sit and listen and watch come downstairs, and you've got a nice little audience. It only holds maybe a dozen people, this room. But the music is background music for the people upstairs. And so people then come down and they've heard it and they I'd quite like to hear a bit more of that. And that's really a nice setup for a pub gig particularly, because I've played pub gigs where there's just nobody listening. They don't care, you know, unless you play covers, and I don't do very many covers, and the covers I do are things no one's ever heard of anyway from the 1930s. But you know, it's challenging playing pub. Well, you know yourself, don't you? Challenging playing pub gigs. The gigs I really like doing are support gigs, when you get a support slot for a touring artist, and people have paid to see them, but because of the type of music that we're talking about, they're receptive to the support act. They're not people who go to the bar. Now, when I started going to gigs when I was younger, if you didn't like the idea of the support act, you just go in the bar and it'd be virtually empty. But these sort of gigs, people listen to the support act. So I've done support gigs of one sort or another for people like Woody Mann, Jeff Muldower, Tony McManus. In 2 weeks' time, I was supporting Mark Harrison, who's a great British blues, quite idiosyncratic blues writer and singer. And I love that, because they've come to see him, but they'll give me a chance as well, you know. And then after I've played, I get to watch this gig. So it's the perfect thing, and that's a lot easier. I mean, it's more pressure in a way because people have paid to come in, but it's easier to do a good performance there than it is when you're running your own sound in a pub. Oh, you're going to have another. And there's a lot of talking, and phones are going on. You know, you just have to learn to kind of, I think, blot it out a bit if you can, and sometimes just play for your own benefit. Treat it almost as a practice session, or catch the eye of someone in the audience who might be listening in the pub and play for them. You know, I tend to watch for people's feet. If their feet are tapping, I think, well, they're listening to some degree, even if subconsciously. So as long as I see the foot tapping, I know I'm doing something that's okay. You know? And it's what I play, as you know, it's rhythmically based. It's dance music, you know, originally country blues, ragtimey stuff. It goes back to stuff like the Charleston. So you want that rhythm to be fundamental to it. But yeah, playing live. I mean, I didn't start playing in front of people till I was quite old. I've been doing it for about, I think for now, probably about 13, 14 years now, on and off. And I think if I'd done it when I was 17, I'd probably have had a lot more confidence, because you have to go through a sort of pain barrier of getting over yourself, basically. And once you get there, it becomes something you look forward to and you enjoy. But I remember that feeling, I'm sure you do too, of just your hands shake. And however well you can play at home in your bedroom, it doesn't mean you can do it in front of people, especially if you're amplified. Because hearing yourself amplified is a whole different ball game, don't you think?
Oh God, absolutely.
You know, apart from the fact it can sound really weird, you're conscious that everything you do is going out to everybody and they're hearing all of it. But then you think, well, if people are out to have a good time, as long as they have a good time, they don't have to hear every nuance of the guitar playing or every single line of the lyric, do they? You know, they enjoy themselves in their own way. That's my philosophy anyway.
Yeah, everything you've said there I agree with 100%. I think we've been playing live about the same length of time. And for me, I play small restaurants, usually on the Isle of Arran. I've played bigger venues with support acts as well, but it's the small restaurants is my main kind of bread and butter. And for me, the sound is the biggest thing. If the sound is good, which I'm in control of, so it's a constant buying and selling and tweaking and changing pickups and all that, but I'm kind of getting there now. And if the sound is good and I can hear myself, then I play well.
You hit the nail on the head there, because when I first played amplified, I don't think people understand this if they've never done it. They assume you can just hear the guitar and you can hear your own voice. You can't.
No.
And you certainly can't hear it accurately or loud enough. So, monitor sound, if you use monitors, is just everything.
Yeah.
If you can't get a good sound on stage, then you can't give a good performance. And I mean, I've played some gigs where I literally couldn't hear anything. And
Oh, me too.
that's just weird.
I played.
You're playing the guitar and you're just hoping your fingers are doing the right thing because you literally can't hear it.
I did a dance set when we played with a wedding band, and at the end of the set, I saw that I put my capo in the wrong fret for the whole set. You hear a thing?
Wow. I remember did a gig with there's a duo called the Hewers who Ian and Phil, and Ian helped me make my CD, and they're a folky duo as opposed to my bluesy side of stuff, but we played stuff together and they've accompanied me. They're both great musicians, and we did a gig where we'd practiced a song, one of my songs they were going to play with me, and there was some issue with the sound just before we started it, so we got that sorted out. Then we started playing the tune, and in this case I could hear the guitar, I could hear my own guitar, but about 2/3 of the way through the tune I realised I'd not actually pressed the mute pedal. And no one else could hear it. I could hear it, but nobody else could. And
I've done that too.
There's a video of it, and I think suddenly this guitar booms out in the middle of it. Oh man, there's just, I mean, I think of it all as being just, it's part of what I suppose people would say paying your dues in a way. It's good if you can do it when you're younger and you've got that experience. But that's the other thing though. You see people like, we had Steve Tilston here yesterday, who said he's been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you get through your really worst mistakes, hopefully in the early years of that, and from that point on, you're just building your experience and you're becoming more polished and more seasoned. And if you're doing tours, this is something that always strikes me too. If I have a gig, I don't do that much gigging, but I tend to spend the day before or the day of the gig just running through the stuff, writing a set list, playing stuff through. If you're touring, every night is a rehearsal for the next night, and it will get better and better and better as you go. Whereas if you don't do a gig for a month, you've got to get back into that whole way of thinking. But I mean, these are things you don't think, when you don't do it, I'd never thought about stuff like this until I started doing it, and the experience is what teaches you. And you tend, I think, if you perform, you're always comparing yourself to the people that you like, and usually unfavourably. And then you have to remind yourself they've been doing it 40, 50 years or whatever, and they are the best in the world at what they do. So why should you compare yourself to someone like that and be so hard on yourself? It's crazy. The main thing is to enjoy it, I think.
Well, you spoke about the 90 and 10% thing.
Yeah.
There's numerous acoustic artists I've gone to see that have made mistakes, and they're so experienced that they just laugh it off, and it becomes part of the act, and it actually warms the audience up a little bit.
I think there's more. Yeah, the audience then realise they're dealing with a human being.
But even having watched that and experienced it, still doesn't make me feel comfortable when it happens to me. You know what I mean?
I think there's a sort of, when it happens to you, there's a kind of a panic sets in.
Yeah, especially when you've got a looper
in your head.
Oh my God, you hit the wrong bit.
I mean, you've got all the sound gear to think of as well. But I think that when you start playing in front of people, your adrenaline is such that you play too fast. That's very common. Yeah. And you're almost wanting to get the tune ended, so that you can look back on it and think it wasn't too bad, as opposed to enjoying the experience of it. And one of the things I've learned to do myself, and it's still difficult sometimes, is, before you play the first note, take a big deep breath and go slower than you intended to, and slower than you think you want to, because you almost always speed up anyway in the course of a tune. But playing slow gives you time to think in real time ahead of what you're about to do. You can think, what's the next chord? Wait, what's the next lyric? Time to look at the audience instead of looking at the guitar. You can kind of multitask mentally if you're going at a slow pace. If you're going at everything's breakneck speed, then there's no time for any of that. It's like running down a hill and you can't stop. And again, it's just one of those techniques, I suppose, that you learn from bad experience. You learn that, if you play too fast, you fall over. If you run too fast, you fall over eventually. Yeah. And also, it's not... the audience don't want to be hurried, do they? They want to be relaxed. They want to be enjoying themselves. So they want you to feel relaxed. They want you to be relaxed. They trust you. They trust you not to screw up your performance. And the best way of screwing up is to go too fast and be all tense, Easy said than done. I'm saying this as if I do this all the time. I don't. I aspire to do it. I try to do it because I know it's the right... for me, anyway, I wouldn't...
No, I agree.
presume to lecture anyone else on how to do it, but that is how it feels to me anyway.
I've been having lessons from Brian Sutton
Yeah.
on Artist Works. Brian's a phenomenal flat picker,
Sure.
but he's also a very good teacher.
Right.
And that's one of the things he picked me up on. You make videos,
Yeah.
send them in, and he critiques them, and it's quite a lengthy critique. He'll give me
Right.
sort of 20 minutes on technique and style and everything. And the biggest thing he picks most people up on is tension.
Yeah.
You know, because particularly when you're playing bluegrass solos,
Oh yeah.
you're going to, you know, and
Yeah.
as soon as you tense up,
What strikes me about
It's-
seeing the best bluegrass players is the way they hold the plectrum.
yeah,
The hand looks like they're barely doing anything.
They
it's
are.
It's
Yeah.
just moving up and down very slowly. If I mean, I can't play with the plectrum. If I try and hold it, it goes ping, you know. So that's why I ended up playing fingerstyle. But I always watch their right hand, and the economy of movement in the right hand is, to me, astonishing. With the speed they can play and the notes they're playing, the clarity of the notes. And you just think, well, that's just like, I suppose it's like anything else. You just absorb the finished product rather than looking at the technique that goes into it, you know. And I think it applies to lots of things. You're watching a Grand Prix or something. You're admiring the way they're going to the. You're not thinking about, you know, when is he changing gear and how is he doing this? Because it's just, to him, it's just, and I say him because it is almost always me. It's just, that's what they do. And so getting to the stage where when you play guitar or perform in front of people, that you move beyond just the physicality of doing it. It's natural. It's like driving a car, riding a bike, whatever. You've got to the stage where you don't have to process that at all. It's your lizard brain doing it for you.
Yeah.
And then what you can be thinking about is, are the audience enjoying themselves? You know, what can I do to enhance this experience for them? And I think also, and I'm sure you've found this with your gigs, a lot of the time it's what you say between the tongues that makes the difference. That's how they know you're a real person. Even if you bare your soul in your songs, that doesn't mean they know you. But when you tell all the good performers I've ever seen always tell, not exactly jokes, but they say funny things. Even the most serious performers will lighten it up with a witty comment or an anecdote or something. And then it becomes like a shared, like a conversation almost, where the music is part of it, but the relationship thing comes from the talking. Every time I go, I mean, it sounds like I'm analysing it all the time, I'm really not, but every time I go to a gig, like you say, you see people making mistakes, and I think, well, look at how they got out of that.
Yeah.
They didn't make a fuss about it, or if they did, they made a joke out of it, so the audience warmed to them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's about understanding that audiences want you to succeed. They're not there to have a bad time. One of the worst things in being an audience is where someone on stage looks nervous and hesitant, and you think, oh, please don't make a mistake, because it'll be very embarrassing. You want them to relax.
Yeah, a friend of mine that played fiddle in the band told me once to stop apologising on stage.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I did. I don't do it
It's
anymore.
automatic when you start, isn't it? You make a mistake. And never say before you sing a song, oh, I've only just written this, so I'm not sure I'll remember it. They don't want to know that, do they?
No.
You know? Just be confident. Even if you play, if you're rubbish, just be confident. And if you play a wrong note, play it again and call it jazz. That's what they say, isn't it?
I was watching the Acoustic Roots documentary, which was about Bert Jansch. That was the reason I bought a guitar.
Oh, really?
It was aired in '92,
Yeah.
and it was all about Bert's journey, right up until he got to meet Brownie McGee, who's a hero of his.
Mm-hmm.
One of Brownie's quotes was, when playing with Sonny Terry, he said that the two of them, they played together so well and for such a long time that they knew where each was going. And he said, 2 wrongs make a right, as long as you make them at the same time. I thought, word.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Loved
But it
that.
is, I mean, that's the other thing, you see. If you're playing to an audience of guitar players, they're probably going to notice the mistakes more. But you're playing to what you might call the general audience who just like music, especially if you're doing your own songs. They don't know what you meant to do. They don't know that you got a lyric wrong, do they?
No.
That's just you beating yourself up mentally about it. It's one of those... I don't know. It's such a complicated area, I think, performing, because it's a whole different thing from being able to play the guitar competently or to be able to sing competently. And I think, having been around guitarists for quite a long time now, I'm a decent guitarist. I'm nothing like the best guitarist, but I'm decent as as hobbyists go. I take it a bit more seriously than that, but I'm a decent guitarist. I'm not a great vocalist, I know that, but they're my songs. So what matters is how I deliver my songs, you know. And when I first started writing, people said I was singing in a very conversational sort of style, that I was almost talking them. And I think that's because I wasn't confident in my own voice. And now I do sing more, but even so, I'm telling a story, and it's my story. So what matters is not technical perfection. It's about humanity, it's about getting that story across.
Yeah.
And then learning that the techniques of performance are how you actually do that. It's about communication. That is a whole different ball game from just being able to play the guitar or sing or write a song. It really is something completely different. And when there were one or two people here who have been a bit nervous about performing, and I really sympathise. But the only advice I would ever give anyone who asked for it was just do it, and then do it again, and then do it some more. And if, when you've done it and you're not happy, you can't wait to do it again, to do it better, then you're on the right track. If when you've made a botch up of something, you think, I never want to do this again, well, maybe don't, if that's how you feel about it. But every time I do a less than good in my head performance, I always think, bring on the next one, and I'll make it better, And that's how I know that that I'm on the right track. I'm still learning, It's a bit weird to be learning at my age, but I am. No, it's not weird at all.
No, it's all.
People should learn all their lives, shouldn't they?
Have you ever had a gig that made you think, I don't want to really
Shall
go
I
through
stop
that
doing
again?
this? I don't honestly think I have. No. I mean, I used to, when I started doing it, if I could, I would record it so I could hear myself. And all I heard then was the mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a video, I can't remember where it was now, but someone videoed me doing a performance, and I was conscious I'd made these mistakes, so I thought, I don't want to watch this video. But I made myself watch it. And you know what, I didn't even see the mistakes.
Right.
I honestly, if I kind of zoned out and just had it on in the background, I couldn't hear the mistakes. I heard them on stage, because it was like, oh, damn, another one. But if I, as the person who made the mistake, can't hear them, no one else is going to hear them, are they? It's so, you can be very self-conscious, I think, performing. And you just have to get over yourself, basically.
Yeah. I had one. It wasn't down to me, really. It was down to the wrong act for the wrong night. It was a fill-in gig that a band couldn't make, and they asked me if I would fill in, and it was a bunch of drunken people that had just been to Millport for a line dancing afternoon. So they had plastic guns and cowboy hats and all that on, and they came back to the golf club expecting this country band, and there's me up singing solo, minor key ballads.
It's character forming, isn't it?
And I got kind of put off for a while after that.
Did you?
I've looked back at it now and I see what it was. It wasn't me. It was.
Though, when I made my CD, I read a quote from someone, and it said, "I do the best work I can, and what people think of it isn't my business." I mean, it's very difficult to take that approach. If you've made a CD or an album because you want people to hear it, and obviously you want them to like it, but why would everybody like it? It may be the ones who say something and the ones who don't like it. But you must find that after you do a gig, even you think it was a mediocre sort of gig, people come up to you and say, "I really enjoyed that."
Yeah.
And the only thing you can possibly say to that is, "Thanks very much."
That's what I do. So
Yeah. And then you get the bizarre comparisons. Do you get this as well? People say, "Oh, you remind me of."
Yeah.
I've had some amazing ones. Johnny Cash. Do I remind you of Johnny Cash?
Not at all.
Not the slightest. Leonard Cohen. I mean,
No.
it's bizarre, isn't it? But people, I talked to someone about this, and they said, well, I think Jake Thacker is the one I get a lot of. I don't know if you remember
I don't know
Jake.
Jake.
Well, you're too young. But, I mean, Jake Thacker was very much of his time in the sort of 60s, 70s. He wrote humorous songs. He was on a television program where I think he would write a song of the week or something, And if you listen to him now, I mean, they're off their time. You wouldn't play them. They're not politically correct, shall we say.
Yeah.
But because people kept comparing me to him, I bought a best-of CD. And I remembered him from TV. And I listened to it, and my goodness, the songwriting craft that went into those songs, the lyrical play was amazing. So even if you have to overlook some of the less acceptable phrases you might use nowadays, I mean, they're not terrible, these things. They're I wouldn't even say they're misogynistic, but they're typical of their time. You know, they are, as I say, the 60s. And I wouldn't perform any of them, I don't think. But you can still hear the craft of what he was doing and admire that. But I still couldn't see why people were comparing me to him. And then someone said to me, well, you're a man playing the guitar, singing songs with sometimes, you know, hopefully witty lyrics. That's enough. That's their frame of reference. Who do I remember who plays the guitar and sings songs? Oh yeah, Jake Thackeray. Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? Because I don't model myself on anybody. You know, there are people who I admire and I think I'd love to be able to play like them, and I like their songwriting. But what you have to be is yourself. You have to take all those influences in and meld them through your own experience into something that's just yours. And when you do that, you have to realise that if people don't like it, that's fine. It's not personal. They don't dislike you. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter. You know. But it's important that it is just yours. It belongs to you. Because there's a lot of tribute acts out there, and I admire them for the skill of what they do. But I don't want to be a tribute act. You know, I've got something I want to say, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. In terms of songwriting, you know, if I write a song, it's got to have a point to it. There's no point in it existing just to go la la la. You know, there's got to be some point. I don't mean heavy message, but it has to have a reason to exist. And then I have to hope that it has some reason for some. You know, it says something to somebody else. And if it doesn't, then maybe I'm playing to the wrong people.
And would you keep doing it if nobody was listening?
Well, it's an interesting one because I teach a bit of, well, I won't say I teach, I've run a number of songwriting workshop type things, songwriter circles, things like that. And one of the things I say is that you can play guitar for your own enjoyment. You can sit in your bedroom or your living room, play through an intricate ragtime piece or something, and at the end of it, you know, pleased with that, sounded great, really enjoyed doing it, tick. No one's heard it. I don't think that matters particularly. Certainly if you didn't write it yourself, if you're just playing someone else's arrangement. Once you write a song, it may as well not exist if it doesn't get performed. Songs should be heard, otherwise what's the point? And so when you write a song, you've got to go out and perform it. There's no choice, you know. So if you're sort of living on your own in a dystopian post-Holocaust world and there's just you, there's no point in writing songs. Is the way. You can still play the guitar and enjoy it, but songs are about communication.
What about therapy?
Interesting you say that. I had a health issue a few years ago which could have been life-threatening, and it shook me up. And I've seen other people who have had these experiences since then, and I've recognised what it does to you. It kind of throws you off balance. There's a shock to your body, and there's a shock to your brain, and there's a shock to your, I'll say, soul. But there's something that's so existential about it. Really, I could have died. You know, this is not like hypochondria. This is, it's almost prosaic to the doctors involved, but to you, it's absolutely. I might not have existed, and that takes months to work through. I found it took about 6 months. In sort of tandem with the physical recovery was a mental and emotional recovery from it. And I wrote a song, and I didn't set out to write a song to encompass my feelings or as therapy, but undoubtedly writing that song was therapy. It's a song called Dancing Your Troubles Away, which is on the CD, and it's a song that uses quite a lot of black humour and sort of death images. Sounds like a barrel of laughs, doesn't it? But it's there are lines in that song that only I know the meaning of.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit weird after what I said about communication. But that song has a purpose in playing it because I like it as a song. You know, it's a nice music, and I think the words have got some value. But it has meaning for me that goes beyond that. So it's an interesting question. You know, would I write for myself if no one was listening? Maybe sometimes I would. Certainly, guitar has been therapy for me. To go back to the point you were making. That's the only song I can think of that's done it, but it's a great comfort being able to pick your guitar up when everything else is going to hell in a handcart around you. You just be able to sit and quietly express yourself, even to an empty room, you know, or to go, even just the sort of, forget the emotional side of it, or even the musical side of it, just the technical side of being able to execute a piece that you have learned. And to do it accurately. I think of the number of finger movements and the incredible stuff that's going on in your nervous system when you're deciding what pressure to put on the strings and how to emphasize a particular note and how to control the speed and the way that you express things, the way you end a tune.
Yeah.
That's massively satisfying. And if you've had a terrible day with all sorts of awful stuff going on around you, to retreat into that little world which is you and the guitar, that's therapeutic, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? You've
very much so. I don't write. I've actually, well, no, let's go back a bit. I've always said to myself, I don't write. I've written tunes, but not songs.
Yeah.
I've tried songwriting, never been satisfied with it until a good friend of mine died, age of 43. Just finished playing a gig, walked home from his gig and dropped dead on his way home. Heart attack. And of course it's a shock, you know. I'd known this guy from my teenage years when I was a skateboarder. And so I wrote a song, and it's actually not a bad song, I think. And it didn't take long to write at all. And I thought, wow.
Is it a song about your friend?
Yeah. It's about him. Its title is Shabba, which is a thing he used to shout when he was really happy. You know, Shabba. And I put it out, I put it on YouTube, just for friends and family. And his brother got in touch and said, would you mind if we played that at the funeral? And I was like, what? Seriously?
That's amazing,
and they did.
Yeah.
And what a moment that was.
Wow.
To be standing in the funeral.
Well, you see, that's the thing, that must have made you realise the impact that not just music, but your music can have on people. And I mean, I wrote a song, it's on my first CD, called This Lullaby, and it's a sort of, it's a gentle sort of song about let's calm down and, you know, forget the awful world outside, and, you know, it's a love song basically. And a friend who plays harmonica, who I've gigged with sometimes, said that song inspired him to go on holiday. He hadn't had a holiday in 10 years. And while I was on holiday, to propose to his partner, with whom he'd been for many years. And they got married. And whenever I do a gig with him, we always mention this, you know, this is the song that caused him to get married. We make jokes about, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't written the divorce song yet. But you'd think, I can't believe that something I did, not 100%, but it contributed to a life-changing experience for somebody. And the funeral thing, I guess, you know, the same sort of thing. That's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can do that. That's just
really
wonderful.
Is, yeah. So I do perform that now when if I'm playing to an audience where some people were there that knew him, you know, I'll usually play it.
Well, last night I played that song, Upon the Earth, which, because Keith, who's one of the head honchos of the Acoustic Soundboard, as you know, has just become a granddad, and again, I didn't write that song for any specific purpose, but when I wrote it, my wife said it would be a really good song to play at a christening.
Okay.
And like to welcome the baby. So I played it for Keith last night, and he seemed quite touched by it. And you just think, well, again, I didn't. You could sit down and say, well, I'm going to write 10 songs that could be played at weddings or christenings or funerals. It wouldn't work, would it? It's got to come from there. Yeah. But it's great to think that something that started as a as a hobby, which it did for me, you know, guitar. Everyone wanted to play guitar when I was 15 because that was just the thing that you did. But it started as a hobby, and it remained a hobby for literally decades with me. That it can lead to something that is pretty profound.
Yeah.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? Aren't we lucky?
It's a privilege.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, you.
Thank
well done, me.
Well, thanks for sitting down, and it's been a really nice conversation.
Yeah.
It's always great to see you again. And,
it's only once a year, isn't it, normally? That's the trouble.
Yeah. Shame you're not going to Liverpool. We could have seen each other next week.
I know, yeah. Have a great
But
time.
really
Say hello to Roger Bucknell for me.
I will. Hopefully I won't come home with a filed, but you never know.
Oh, well.
That was the standout guitar, I think, for me last year, was your filed that you had here.
Yeah. Well, I've got another one on order, and seeing the guitars he's taking to Liverpool has got me thinking. I'd agreed with him what it was going to be, and he's got a waiting list of up to 2 years at the minute, so you have to just be prepared to wait. But the trouble with, I enjoy that anticipation, but the trouble is, after a while you start thinking, perhaps I should have set a different specification for such a thing. And then he sends this newsletter out with these incredible looking guitars, and I've suddenly decided I want something completely different to what I thought I wanted. I'll have to get you to try the one I'm thinking I might try and
yeah, I'll let you know.
Emulate. Yeah, please do. Take some photos.
I will. Richard, thank you.
Thank you, Camps. Great to see you as always.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.